welcome to this episode of the Bible study series. My name is Abim Bola. I am Nigerian and I am currently doing a Bible study, and I'm currently at Genesis. Genesis chapter 9 is what I'll be delving into in this episode. Alright, so let's get into it. I always use the Good News Translation Bible. Like I always say, it's a lot easier for me to comprehend. Alright, so let's just get into it. Genesis chapter 9. And to catch up on the other Bible study, you can just go through the other videos that I have recorded. Alright. Genesis chapter 9. God blessed Noah and his sons and said, "Have many children so that your descendants will live all over the earth. All the animals, the birds, and the fish will live in fear of you. They are all placed under your power. Now you can eat them as well as green plants. I give them all to you for food. The one thing you must not eat is meat with blood still in it. I forbid this because the life is in the blood. If anyone takes human life, he will be punished. I will punish with death any animal that takes a human life. Human beings were made like God, so whoever murders one of them will be killed by someone else. You must have many children so that your descendants will live all over the earth." God said to Noah and his sons, "I am now making my covenant with you and with your descendants, and with all living beings, all birds and all animals, everything that came out of the boat with you. With these words I make my covenant with you. I promise that never again will all living beings be destroyed by a flood. Never again will a flood destroy the earth. As a sign of this everlasting covenant which I am making with you and with all living beings, I am putting my bow in the clouds. It will be the sign of my covenant with the world. Whenever I cover the sky with clouds and the rainbow appears, I will remember my promise to you and to all the animals that a flood will never again destroy all living beings. When the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between me and all living beings on earth. That is the sign of the promise which I am making to all living beings." Father of Canaan. These three sons of Noah were the ancestors of all the people on earth. Noah, who was a farmer, was the first man to plant a vineyard. After he drank some of the wine, he became drunk, took off his clothes, and lay naked in his tent. When Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked, he went out and told his two brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a rope and held it behind them on their shoulders. They walked backward into the tent and covered their father, keeping their faces turned away so as not to see him naked. When Noah sobered up and learned that what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "A curse on Canaan. He will be a slave to his brothers. Give praise to the Lord, the God of Shem. Canaan will be the slave of Shem. May God cause Japheth to increase. May his descendants live with the people of Shem. Canaan will be the slave of Japheth." After the flood, Noah lived 350 years and died at the age of 950. Amen. May God bless the reading of his word and open our understanding in Jesus' name. Amen. So basically, in the previous chapter 8, we see how God, was in the works. It was reducing the flood while Noah and his family were in the boat. And then after about a year, the water level reduced drastically on the earth, and then they were allowed to come out of the boat. And then I feel like God is giving Noah and his family and all the animals that were saved a fresh start. Just like Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, God gave them instructions. God is giving Noah instructions. Like I said in the previous episode, I feel like God, was starting afresh with Noah after the whole flood and everything. Like he's giving Noah the mantle to run the race, the Christian race, to set good example for the children to come, basically. So God is here telling Noah and his children what to do and what not to do. So in this chapter, we see that God gives man the permission to go ahead to eat animals. When man was in Eden, we could only eat plants. But here God is telling us that we can go ahead to eat animals and we can eat plants. God knows it all. I don't know why God, made it that way, but God gives us to go ahead to eat animals. The only exception is that we should not eat the animals that the blood is still there. So we should drain the animals of all the blood, wash it thoroughly before we eat, basically. And then God is saying we can eat plants as well. And then God put fear in animals. Like I said before in previous chapters, I strongly believe that man and animals could communicate very well. I mean, that's why the snake could go and talk to Eve. That's how Adam could name the animals. Adam had to have some kind of relationship with them to understand their characters and their traits and then to give them names. But here we see that God now introduces the spirit of fear into the animals, and then now animals cannot relate with man anymore. Like once they see us, they fear us. Except now, like I think dogs, except now when dogs are trained, to be friendly with their owners and all that. But God introduces spirit of fear into animals, and then no form of relationship was supposed to quite be between man and animal, I believe. And then also here we see that God places a curse, right? It says no animal should take any man's life, no man should take any man's life, unless another man will take the life of the animal, another man will take the life of the man who commits murder. And I'm so sure that, as in, whatever God says, it comes true. It's established, right? I believe that's why the justice system, the legal system is like that. Like if anybody is charged for murder, he's going to be sentenced to death by hanging or by, I mean, in my country, anybody that commits murder is sentenced to death by hanging, or I believe death row. They put them on death row, basically. And any animal too that takes the life of any man will be taken. The animal will also die, and another man will kill the animal, basically. So we should not be, man, basically. God has given us the rule, the instruction not to commit murder. I mean, what are we doing with, what is our business with taking another man's life? It doesn't make sense. Why do you want to put another man's blood in your hands? Because actually the blood has a voice. The blood of every man, of any animal, has a voice. Remember in the story of Abel and Cain, the blood of Abel was crying out against Cain. God heard the voice of the blood, and that's why God placed the curse on Cain. Like he had a mark on his head, and he was a vagabond. He was just roaming around, basically. So God here is telling Noah again, do not take the life of any man. Tell your children, do not take the life of any man. Animals should not take the life of anyone, basically. And we also see that God tells Noah that it would never destroy the world by flood. Like what happened in Noah's time is never gonna happen again. When the whole world is destroyed by flood, is never gonna happen again. I believe that the sacrifice that Noah offered in chapter 8 has a great part to play. Like God must have seen how Noah was happy and elated and God saw Noah's heart, like, okay, I'm not going to do this again. And then God puts the rainbow. We know it as a rainbow. Like once we see the rainbow, it's a reminder for humans that God is never going to destroy the world through flood ever again. It's a reminder for us of the covenant that God had with Noah, right? That is another sign for us that God really does exist. Like, because I've seen the rainbow a couple of times. It's not something I see every time, but I've seen it a couple of times, and it's a reminder of God's promises, right? God's promise, God's covenant with Noah that it will never destroy the world again with flood. Then fast forward, we see that Noah is he went ahead to break record. It was the first big farmer ever. He was the first farmer to have a vineyard. Imagine, he had a vineyard, so I can imagine like lots of grapefruits in that vineyard. And then we see that he goes ahead to get drunk on his supplies. I don't know why. I don't know what got upon him. He probably was just too excited, and then he just took lots of wine. And then we see that he gets drunk, and then we see that his youngest son, instead of covering his father's shame, was over there making fun of his father, right? He was making fun of his father, okay. But his two other sons, which is Japheth and Shem. Yeah, Japheth and Shem, they covered their father's shame, covered him up, basically, so that you know, that father's nakedness will not be exposed basically. But the youngest son, who is was making fun of their father. And then the father woke up in the morning and knew what happened, and out of anger, he placed a curse on his son, which is sad, because that curse went ahead to continue for generations. Because God tells us here that Noah, his children, will be the fathers of the generations to come. Basically, that's another promise that was promised here. God says that, okay, Noah, his children, will be the father of the generations to come. So Ham is the father of the Canaanites, and then Japheth and Shem is the father of other tribes that came into existence. So Noah puts a curse on his son. And I see in Joshua chapter 14, I'm not sure about the chapter now, we see that the Canaanites, right, for no reason, they're just enslaved to the Israelites. It is the curse put in place. I'm telling you that there's power in our tongue. Curses are real. Blessings are real. Noah goes ahead to bless his other sons who cover this nakedness, but he curses his other child that made fun of him. Probably was out of anger. It happens. Out of anger, we do the dumbest things. We do the things that we probably regret sometimes, and then he puts a curse on his son. And that curse goes ahead for generations. For me, I cannot stress this. Like, let our attitude, right? Let our behavior draw blessings to our lives. Don't do something and people be like, what? Who are you? Where are you from? And then they just say nonsense. They place a curse on your life. Like, curses are real, fam. They are so real. Don't be deceived. Curses are so real. The curse that's not placed on his son, it goes ahead to affect generations that did not know, generations that were not there when he did his nonsense act, when he made fun of his father. They're subject to that curse. Then people that know about breaking curses and all that, that is another topic for another time. There is the ministry of deliverance, where God is merciful, where we can pray for deliverance to deliver our lives from curses like that. But I mean, if you can avoid it. Like they say, prevention is better than cure. Avoid it. All right. So to summarize this chapter, basically, so I don't talk too much, right? It pays to obey God, basically, because out of the obedience of Noah, we see how God blesses Noah, and then God gives him a new covenant, a fresh covenant, to be the father of many generations. Noah goes ahead to be the first farmer to have a big vineyard in the world, and his children are also blessed from obedience. Like, when you're obedient to God, your children's children tends to enjoy from that obedience, because Noah's obedience, his children gets to enjoy from the new covenant with God, basically. And then we also see that nobody has any business with committing murder. Please stay away from murder, because if you commit murder and that person would take your life, there's no two ways about it. It may not be now. Maybe you say you think you escaped it. 10 years from now, it could come up on your head. Maybe your children or children's children will want to suffer for it, and then you'll be wondering what happened. Stay away from taking another person's life. And then we see that the power of the tongue, there is so much power in the tongue. My advice to us is that we should act in ways that allows men to bless us, to bless our lives, basically. Let us try to be of good character, right? Because Noah placed the curse on his son Ham, who was disrespectful, who was naughty, who knew the right thing to do but did otherwise. Noah placed a curse on his child, and then we see that his child and his descendants suffer because of the curse, right? So for me, I'm saying that we should strive to be of good behavior. Let our light so shine for the world, let our light so shine to the world that they may give glory to our Father in heaven. Let them see us as children of light and be like, who is our father? Who is our mother? They really raised this. They really raised you well, and then they pray for you. It happens. You can just do something, just a small act, and the person is so grateful, and the person is just blessing you and praying for you. Blessings go a long way, I'm telling you, and as well, curses go a long way. That's to summarize the things that I learned on this chapter. Let me just go through my note and see the things that I've not said. Basically, that's it on this chapter. next time. Bye. God loves you.